the main one.
Shalom everyone, a good evening. It is a good to see you this evening.
Shalom, Rabbi, shalom. Shalom from Hebron.
Wow. And this evening, this is the second shiur of the secrets of the Talmud. And today, we are going to learn together something very interesting. It's called a Mazel and Bracha, Halacha, validity of a diamond dealer's method of acquisition. Now, is anyone, by any chance, a diamond dealer?
I'm Jewish. Not gonna lie, wood.
So, maybe someday, one of you is going to be a diamond dealer. There's a story that one time a Reb Shlomo Karlibach, he went once to diamond dealers in Manhattan, and he used to give them a shiurim. So Reb Shlomo used to embrace everyone, and he used to spend time with, and he used to take care of everyone he could. Even the most simple people, even the homeless people, he used to play for them, and he used to tell them stories, and so forth. So, thank you. So, the diamond dealers, they asked him, "You are such a great rabbi. Why do you spend so much time with these homeless people, these simple people?" So he said to them, "You are diamond dealers, right? If you would have in your possession an unpolished diamond that is potentially worth $1 million, would you be able to recognize it?" So they said, "Of course, we are the best diamond experts in the world." So he said to them, "I am also a diamond expert. And I see that there are so many unpolished diamonds walking around the street. There are so many special souls. There are so many special people that if you just polish them, if you just believe in them, they're going to shine the world with the beauty." So everyone could be a diamond dealer. You just have to believe in any of those you are in contact with, and you could be a diamond dealer also.
Oh.
So, but today we're going to talk about real diamond dealers. And does anyone know what is the way that the diamond dealers from Tokyo to Manhattan, what method of acquisition do they use to close a deal? Does anyone know?
Could you be more specific?
If, for example, there's a deal between the two diamond dealers, how do they end this deal?
Handshake. They come to an agreement.
Handshake, you say what?
They both say, you accept this deal, I accept this deal, we're good. I mean,
Okay. So, what?
A Kenyan Suda.
Okay, a Kenyan Suda. So the truth is that this is official. All of the diamond dealers in the whole world, even in Japan, they say Mazel u Bracha. It is in Yiddish, and in Hebrew, Mazel Bracha, and this signals the closing of a deal. So if one of the parties says those words, so the other party can't turn back. So it is interesting because the Jews have influenced the diamond trade so much that these words have been international method of acquisition. So what we are going to do today is to find out what is the halachic legality of these words. Okay? So there is a problem. There is a problem about this. Does anyone know what halachic problem it could be with closing a deal?
The verb for oil?
Very good, very good. According to the halacha, in order to close a deal, you have to do an actual act of acquisition. You have to either mishicha. Let's say that I would like to buy this pen. Okay, so the deal is only final when I take this pen into my possession. Okay, and I put it in my pocket. Okay, or for example, another way would be to lift the pen, okay? And then just a question, but
No, I just have something to say. I can imagine in practically how this works. So you have a guy in Manhattan, the guy in Tokyo on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
The purchaser will say, okay, like they say, what is it, Mazel and Bracha.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them says, okay, I am right now going to send an order to send 10% of the new, before you even ship out the diamonds,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send you 10% of the agreed payment in a bank order, like just to get things started. I can imagine something like that happen.
That's right, and matters could be very complicated because that if when you send the diamonds, okay, you send the diamonds and then something happens to them, if they get stolen at the airport, or they get
Damage.
stolen at the post office, or that a magpie comes and steals the diamonds, anything could happen. So the question is whose responsibility it is. If we say that the deal was closed at the moment that the purchaser said Mazel Bracha, so all of the responsibility it is in the hands of a buyer. But if we say that the deal did not close until the purchaser actually receives the diamonds, meaning that a Mazel Bracha is not a valid method of acquisition, so the responsibility is still in the hands of the seller. So there is a very big difference between the two. So, as you said before, that the problem is that most of the kinyanim, we could see over here, there's a glossary of the terms. What we are studying now is actually a classical debate in the Talmud. For example, many of the the tractates in the Talmud that deal with acquisitions and with the question of ownership, for example, Kiddushin,
You do it with
Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, and Baba Bata. There are many sugyot, many debates that deal with a kinyanim. Now, a kinyanim, you could see in the introduction, a kinyan is a method of acquisition, okay? And there are all kinds of different methods. I have got here a list of a few methods. For example, there's a kinyan meshicha, that you take the item into the buyer's possession. But is what I said here. Hagbaha, that you lift the item, and then it shows that the deal is a close. Or yeah, that's right. In
I sold my chametz now.
Mechirat chametz, so
I use my gartel.
you lift the rabbi's pen. Okay, there is an interesting debate about in a kiddushin. This is something very humorous, but it says that the best way to acquire something is by lifting it. So the Talmud asks, how do you buy an elephant? Okay, it is impossible to lift an elephant, right?
There are two ways of doing it, no?
That's right.
In the Mazel it's written?
In the kiddushin.
In the kiddushin, you can either carry it or sit on it.
Okay, but there's another way. There's another way that you bring the elephant's favorite food, for example, peanuts, and then you hang it on a tree, and then the elephant jumps, and in order to get
Elephants jump.
the peanuts, and then it is a kinyan hagbaha, because it had lifted itself from the ground, and then you could actually buy the elephant. Yeah.
What if it's happening in an accident? I mean, hypothetically, since we started the shiur, I could have been negotiating something over text on WhatsApp.
Okay, so that's a very big question. What is the legality of a WhatsApp? So, anyway, if we come back over here to the topic that we are talking about, so there are a couple of ways of methods of acquisition, okay? But all of them have got something in common. What is that? You have to do
an action, physical.
A physical action in order to attain the ownership. But what is the method of acquisition of the diamond dealers? It is orally. They only speak it. They only say Mazel Bracha. So the question is, does speaking
count as a
right? Does it count, or do you have to do with something physical? Okay. So this is the first question. Okay, this is the first question, and now the second question is that we already have official kinyanim, methods of acquisition according to the Torah that I just mentioned. You could see over here, Meshicha, Hagbaha, Mesira. And the question is, what is the legality of modern kinyanim, such as a Mazel Bracha in the diamond industry? Is a modern kinyan valid according to the Torah? So these are two questions that we are going to deal with, and we are going to learn with it together. And these questions are very, very important, not only for for purchasing diamonds, but it is also important to understand how the Torah deals with the development of technology, the development of economy. How does the Torah deal with global trade? Okay, so these are very, very, very important questions that we are going to deal with. Okay, so first of all, what do you think? Do you think that the kinyan of the diamond dealers is valid according to the Halacha?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
As it assuming that this is common knowledge, this is something every diamond dealer knows. As you said, imagine that every Japanese diamond dealer and every Manhattan diamond dealer and every London diamond dealer and every Hong Kong diamond dealer knows. Every Russian diamond dealer knows these are the words you say. They don't know what it means, but this is the diamond dealer minhag.
Right.
To say when we close a deal. Therefore, and any lawyer that works with diamond dealers would know that. Therefore, when you say this, even if there's no exchange, or even if it's just over text, that this means that we both closed the deal.
Beautiful, a beautiful.
If I were to say this in a different context,
explanation, yeah.
If I was buying a used car, or I was at a yard sale, it could be different. But amongst professional diamond dealers, because this is specifically the tradition, their habit, then yes, it should be binding.
Very good. So you were saying actually that a custom, a minhag, among diamond dealers, for example, it is actually a code word for the deal to be closed, to be final. So if one says these words, so it is considered valid. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. We are going to see that this is very similar to the Chatam Sofer and also to the Dvar Avraham. We are going to see it momentarily. Okay, so we first of all there is a way to deal with modern questions, okay? Modern questions, the Talmud, of course, doesn't talk about the diamond industry, because there was no diamond industry 2,000 years ago. However, the Talmud gives similar ideas, and a posek has to find the grain the foundation of that the question stands on, and to find the same idea, the same aspect in the Yesugya that the Gemara does deal with. Okay, so there is a kinyan called kinyan Situmta. Okay, this is a kinyan that is only mentioned one time in the Talmud. And this kinyan method of acquisition is very, very similar to the way that the diamond dealers close a deal. Okay? So in order to understand this our question, we have to learn Situmta. Okay? First of all, this kinyan was developed actually at a later period, but in the past, in most cases, a buyer could actually take the item of a merchandise into his possession, and then the deal was was final. But afterwards, after as economy developed, and the merchants, they actually kept large supplies and the stocks in the warehouses. So a buyer couldn't actually take all the supplies into his possession. So there had to be something to develop that has been developed in order to deal with the changing economy. And this was actually Situmta. Okay, so different kinyanim have been invented by the merchants in order to indicate a closing of a deal. And as I said, one of these kinyanim that the merchants developed is called Situmta. Okay? Now, as I said, a Situmta is only mentioned one time in the Talmud, and it is mentioned over here in the tractate of the Baba Metzia. I have got over here. This is the tractate of the Baba Metzia.
What does Baba Metzia mean?
Middle. Metzia means the middle. Baba Kama means the first, and Baba Batra means the last. Okay. There are actually three different tractates in the Talmud that deal with financial aspects. Okay, for example, Baba Kama deals with the damages. Okay,
Law, financial law.
if somebody damaged someone else's property, okay, if that is a Baba Kama. And then a Baba Metzia deals with a general of a finding lost a property and returning a lost property, and also other aspects. And Baba Batra deals with relationships between neighbors. Okay, so Situmta actually appears in a Baba Metzia. So it says over here, you could see in a source 1 where it says a Kinyan Situmta. Rabbi Papi said in the name of Rava, the Kinyan of Situmta is valid. What are the halachic implications of his statement? Rav Chaviva said this Kinyan is as valid as any other Kinyan. Rabbanan said this Kinyan is only valid concerning the penalty of withdrawal from a deal. And in the brackets it says it is only the beginning of an acquisition, but not a complete Kinyan. The Halacha is according to Rabbanan that whoever withdraws from a deal after Kinyan Situmta has been done receives the penalty of Mishapara.
What does Kinyan mean?
Kinyan means a method of acquisition.
What is Mishapara?
Okay, that's a very good question. A Mishapara is actually a curse, okay? It is a curse that he is going to buy something, and then they close the deal, okay? And then he says, no, I am going to withdraw, I am not going to make the deal. So it is like a curse that says that it is not right. It is not right. If you said that you were going to do something and you did the Kinyan, you actually did the method of acquisition, and then you would go back and you would say that you are not going to do it, so it's not right. It is something that isn't right to do. Okay? Furthermore, in places which the custom is to use Situmta as an actual Kinyan, this method of acquisition is valid. So this is actually the only time in the Talmud that it talks about a Situmta. Okay? So, the question now is, what is Situmta? Okay, it is a strange word that even in Aramaic, it isn't really understood what it actually means. So you could see it in the chart over here on page 2. So I brought the 4 main views about a Situmta. Rashi says, you could see in the first column it says a Rashi, and then in the next column, what is a Situmta? It is a mark that the storekeepers mark the barrels of wine which they paid for but haven't yet received. Okay, because in those days, as economy developed, they couldn't take into their possession at once all of the barrels of wine because they didn't have any room to put it. So they used to mark the barrels that they purchased, and it still stayed at the warehouse of the seller, and then they knew that they belonged to him. So if the buyer marks the barrels of wine, so this is a sign that the deal is supposed to be closed. Okay? Now, Ritva says something else. He says that a Situmta is like a token, an unmarked coin, which the merchants hand out as a sign that they have purchased the goods. This is the view of a Rabbi. And the Rosh says that Situmta is actually a handshake between the buyer and the seller. So after they shook hands, so one cannot go back on the deal. The deal is considered closed. Okay? And then there is the Hagahot HaMaimoniot. He says that the Situmta is transferring the key to the buyer. Okay? So if it's a wine seller, so he gives him the key to the wine seller, and then the deal is over. Okay? So so we saw here all kinds of different views, what it means, but it's important to understand that the question is, what is the halachic legality of the merchant's kinyan, which is a situmta. Okay? So the Talmud says actually that in places which the custom is to use a situmta, so this is an actual kinyan, but in places, but it isn't the custom, so it isn't a kinyan. So, nevertheless, we have to try and understand if it is from a deoraita or is it from a yedrabanan. So there are two very important definitions that one has to always ask themselves on any law that we study. If it is a deoraita or is it a yedrabanan. And now a deoraita means that it is a form of the Torah, that it is that it comes a straight from the Torah, so it is even more valid than a Drabanan. A Drabanan, it is a form of the sages, which of course is also very, very, very important, but it isn't as important as a Doraita. Okay? So there are all kinds of views about it. We aren't going to go through everything at once, but if you could only look at the view of the Netivot HaMishpat. He says that Situmta is only valid from a Yedrabanan. It isn't a valid from a Yedoraita. And then afterwards, you could see the view of the Chatam Sofer. Now, the Chatam Sofer, has anyone heard of the Chatam Sofer?
From Pesach.
That's right. He was one of the greatest sages who lived like 200, 250 years ago. And his rulings are extremely important, and they are used also here today. What did you want to ask?
Short question.
Yeah.
Kinyan is Aramaic, right? I guess it's Aramaic, right?
Well, it's in the Hebrew. It's in the Hebrew actually. Kinyan.
Can.
That's right. It's a purchase.
I thought it's Aramaic.
Well, you are right that some of the distinctions between a word in Aramaic and in the Hebrew, if it is a nun sofit at the end, but in this case it is. It's a Hebrew word. It is also what you mentioned in the Torah. Yeah. Okay. So the Chatam Sofer says something extraordinary. He says something extraordinary. He says that the legality of a Situmta is from the Oraita. It is from the Torah. So he explains like this. He says that any kinyan, any method of acquisition that a people accepted from their own free will, that they decided that this is going to be the method of acquisition, for example, of a diamond dealers, but they decided that a Mazel or Bracha is going to indicate the end of an agreement. So this is going to be valid according to the Halacha, even from a Yediraita, even from the Torah, because that people accepted it from their own free will. This is actually the minhag, so it's going to be valid according to the Halacha, B'Doraita. So this is something very, very interesting that the Chatam Sofer says. Now, we're going to see something else that is built on the words of the Chatam Sofer. Here we could see, if you could turn the page, please, to C. Okay? This is the words of the Dvar Avraham. He was Harav Avraham Shapira from Kuvno. In Poland, and he lived about 100 years ago, and he actually says something extraordinary. He says that the Kinyanim, he actually bases his words on the Talmud Yerushalmi, on the Jerusalem Talmud, which says he said there that the Kinyan of the Khalifin actually developed during the centuries, and every change that this Kinyan made, actually, according to the different customs, it is valid according to the Halacha completely. And he says that the Torah actually did not rule a specific method of a Kinyan Khalifin, but how it actually should be practiced. Rather, the Torah gave the freedom to apply the kinyan to the specific method of acquisition of the time. Therefore, so we can conclude from the words of the Dvar Avraham that the different customs of the merchants in every generation, they have halachic legality. This is actually incredible because the Torah draws general lines and general borders of the kinyan, and the Torah gives us the flexibility and allows the different customs in time and age to determine the specific kinyanim. So this idea is actually extremely important because that it actually teaches us that the Torah is eternal, and at the same time the Torah is relevant to every day and age. So the Torah gives us the foundations and the guidelines, and actually it allows us to according to the different customs and according as the economy evolves to apply the different kinyanim. So therefore, if we come back to the question that we are dealing with, if we are going to put it together, the different puzzle pieces of the Chatam Sofer and the Dvar Avraham, that both of us here tell us that the kinyan of the Is Situmta is the method of acquisition that the merchants that they use in every generation. So we could say that a Mazel or Bracha used by the diamond dealers is actually valid according to the Halacha, because that if the diamond dealers, this is their custom, this is their way of closing deals, so it is also going to be valid according to the Torah, because the Torah gave the freedom, the flexibility of the kinyan to be applied. There are, of course, borders, there are, of course, guidelines. There's a whole debate if a kinyan is allowed to be orally. Yeah.
Sorry. It seems to me that the main difference here is between when we look at the definitions before, is whether you give a token of some kind, a physical object of some kind that somebody has in their possession as a way to indicate, look, in case there's a conflict. Look, I bought this.
That's right.
Versus the situation where you could never prove that. So it's dealing more with what happens if there's conflict afterwards, saying he said this and he said that. It's one person's word against another person's word, right?
That's right. So they
talking.
That's right. That is a very good isfara. That's a very good way of explaining it. And it could be that this is the big difference, because a token or a mark on the wine barrels is actually something that you could see. It is something that you could feel. But it just words, it just a handshake. It isn't something that you could prove. That is also a very good explanation. So as I said, there's a big dispute which we are not going to go into now between the Rishonim and the Achronim on the question if a kinyan could be an oral kinyan, is it valid for it to not have a physical action? Okay, so to summarize, our views from a two different views. Rabbi Teichtel, for example, Hema B'nai Mesmecha, who was murdered in the Holocaust. He was a rabbi of Slovakia, in Slovakia. He says that a kinyan, and especially Situmta, it is valid orally. And then, if there is a Hamarashag, Rabbi Shimon Greenfield, he was the rabbi of Yasami Hali, and then he said that it can't be oral at all. There has to be an actual method of acquisition, or a token, or a mark, or something like that. Now, what is the halacha today? What do the poskim nowadays say? So you could see at the end of your page 4. So they say that a Mazel Bracha is completely valid. It is perfectly okay because it is the custom within the diamond industry to close deals. So this is the custom, and it is a valid completely, and then no party can withdraw from the deal. So that is what they say, and so to summarize everything what we learned today in a nutshell, it is that every single modern problem, every single development in economy, in a technology, in global trade, everything has a sources and foundations. In the Torah, in the Talmud, one just has to know where to look and one can find. And then this modern question that we dealt with the diamond dealers. So if you open up the Talmud, so you could see that it talks about it. It doesn't say the words diamond dealers. It doesn't say Mazel Bracha, but it says the idea of a kinyan of a Situmta. So, as it says in a Pirkei Avot, hafoch ba ve'afoch ba dekula ba. But if you search in the Torah, you are going to find the answers to the contemporary questions, to the most burning topics, the most difficult questions of the modern days. Everything is in the Torah. One just has to look and find, and then the answers appear. So, if there's any questions or comments, so you please ask.
So, just to sort of summarize, as long as it's either just like a cultural norm, for instance, the word the term Mazel in Bracha in diamond traders, or it's just so absolutely obvious to everyone involved, a verbal agreement is binding of the trade already. So like if I'm agreeing with you to buy your car,
Mhm.
and we say, okay, tomorrow bring the car to the Machon, and I will bring 50,000 shekels in cash.
Mhm.
At that point in time, the car, even though it'll be in your driveway for the night, and the 50,000 shekels, even though it'll be in my lockbox overnight, the trade already happened. Machon?
So that is a good question. You are asking if in every case an oral agreement is valid. So the answer is no. We didn't see the words of a Rosh, but he says, you could see it over here, at the top of page 4. So he says that a handshake may be considered as a valid kinyan because it is an action. However, plain words aren't valid.
Rob, can I
Yes?
another?
Yeah.
This is something that's very, very, very common today. People will have an agreement, and they'll make a verbal agreement, but they'll record it on their cell phones. So they both record it. They both have they hold their own phones exactly as they want to. They show the camera. If they're signing a document, they film the other person signing. Like this is
Right.
very standard today. Is that different? Because I can upload that to YouTube, send it to a lawyer.
Right.
I mean, if you sign a contract, it is already.
But even if there isn't a contract, even if you and I are sitting in the front seat of your car and we're both agreeing, I will pay 50,000 shekels in the morning, and you will give me your car keys and sign over the title to me. If we make that agreement over video, is that different? Is that binding? Halacha.
Well, everyone agrees that plain words aren't considered a kinyan, and the Rosh he continues here, and he says that even if it is a custom to commit a kinyan orally, it is considered a poor custom, and we do not rule accordingly. So the example of a diamond dealers, that is a special example. It is a special example that everybody knows from Tokyo over to Manhattan, that this is the way to close deals concerning diamonds. This is the way, and I have even got in my book a quote from the just a second, I'm just going to find it, from the laws of the diamond trade in New York, and it says here, any oral offer is binding among dealers when agreement is expressed by accepted words, Mazel and Bracha, or any other words expressing the words of accord. So the example of the diamond dealers is a specific example, because this is special words, but they really close the deal. But other words, other situations, for example, the situation that you gave, is that even if you tape record him or film him saying that he wants to do the deal, so I am not sure that it is binding, but it is a different circumstance. It isn't a custom shared by everyone. It is it happened to be those words that he said, but it isn't necessarily binding. This is what I think, but I am not a posek. You have to ask a posek if you have got an actual question. If somebody actually said that they would give you $50,000 and they didn't, so you have to ask a posek about that.
So that would be to say, however, plain words aren't valid. So the emphasis is on plain, in that sense that they're not words
That's right.
that are used as a custom, like a handshake.
That's right.
Is a custom because, in a sense, saying something is not really different from a handshake, but the difference is that it's become a custom to close a deal that way. Or
That's right. If it is a custom, if the emphasis is on the custom, if it's a custom, so it is a valid. So thanks very much, everyone, for your questions and the comments.
Thank you.
Baruch Hashem, we learned it together.
All right, guys, that's all we're going.